Hello, friends, and welcome to Service of Change's ChangeCast, your podcast for change. I'm your host, Dennis Nappy II, with Service of Change, where small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. We have a great show for you tonight, one that actually is very near and dear to my heart, as they all are, but this one is about a wonderful woman. She's a teacher. She's an art teacher. She works with adjudicated youth and persons that are incarcerated, using art to help them through the things that are going to and hopefully make that difference in their lives. Courtnie N. Wolfgang, Dr. Courtnie N. Wolfgang. We're going to be speaking with her in a little bit. A lot of exciting things going on. Before we jump into this show, though, I'd like to bring on my esteemed co-host, my partner in crime. When he's not delivering your dinner, he's bringing you insight, knowledge, and wisdom. Joel, the provocateur Schaefer. Joel, what's going on, dude?
Don't blow up my civilian gig.
You know, I couldn't resist that one, man.
It's okay. My one wheel fell off my one car in pursuit of bringing people their dinner.
I remember. I read that the other night, man. I felt so bad for you, dude. That sucks, man. That really sucks.
A police
you
officer.
Doing all right, though?
Yeah, a police officer saw it happen and he stopped and he was like, "Are you okay?" And then he put down a flare for me.
That was nice. At least he put the flare down for you.
Yeah, he was very nice, and I just waited an hour for the tow truck.
He didn't tase you for littering and lock you up?
No, he didn't. He didn't search me. He didn't accuse me of being a criminal.
Copy a nice guy. Go figure.
Yeah, I know.
All the
it
hate
does
that
happen.
I know. I was never a nice guy, but glad
I find that hard to believe.
Thank you. Yeah, and was that Upper Darby that helped you out?
It was Lansdowne.
Lansdowne. Okay, yeah, they're good guys down there too. So, and we also have Lori Latimer with us this evening, our Twitter expert, our social media expert. Been doing a lot of promotion. Lat Attack. There we go. She's the blog host of Lat Attack, or Uphill. It's Lat Attack.
Yes.
What's the site again, Lori? Let's get that plug out of the way.
Okay, so my blog is called Uphill, and the URL is latattack.wordpress.com.
And Lat Attack again. What was it? We went through this last week. I always forget.
Okay, so once upon a time, I was in an MSW program, and my friends were calling me, Lat and Latimer and stuff like that, but then they decided I was like a wild little cat, so they started calling me Lat Attack.
That's right. Okay.
and
now
that's how that happened.
I kicked myself last week when you said Latimer, and I'm like, man, I've known Lori for, I don't know, what have I known you, 20 years, something like that? Yeah. Longer than that? And I never made the connection between Lat and Latimer, and here I am again a week later. I forgot.
Yeah, you thought it was about language arts class.
I did. Well, I am a teacher, you know. Like, you're a writer, LA language arts, I thought it was about. So, all right, either way, Lat Attack, that's how we go. And we're excited. We got a lot of stuff in the works for you, Lori, and I talk about this every week because it's so important. But your book is now available for pre-order, correct?
Yes, it is.
99 cents on Kindle. We encourage people to check that out and get the pre-order copy. And as I said, through social media, even if you're going to get the hard copy, because if you're like me, I like to hold the book in my hand. Actually, I'm holding Lori's book right now. I love it. But this will really support, help launch Lori, as a first-time author. The more pre-orders that we get, the higher ranking she'll get on Amazon, the more exposure that she will get. So I'm asking, if you're a fan of this show, you're a fan of Lori and what she's trying to do, with these inspirational haikus that she writes religiously every Tuesday, spend the 99 cents and pre-order her book. You can find the links at theserviceofchange.com or on facebook.com/serviceofchange on my Twitter feed. That's Dennis Nappy II, N-A-P-P-I-I-I, and Lori is at Lori Latimer 1. The number 1, and you can find links to it there. And I actually, one more thing, Lori, I made you cry this week over this, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Your post on the Service of Change blog about your relationship with writing, and how vulnerable it can make you feel to put yourself out there, and how our relationship, just being friends and keeping each other going. It melted my heart a little bit.
I'm as a writer, when you hear that you got an emotional response, whether they were angry or happy or in tears, like you said you were, it's such a great compliment. You don't expect that to be a compliment, but it is a compliment. So I'm glad I made you cry, Lori. But it was more than just about.
There was that time you threw a basketball at my face, and that made me cry too.
And now we bring it back down. There we go. Knocked right off of my high horse. Thanks, Lori.
I think you should challenge him to a judo match.
Oh, I can't wait to fight Lori. We go through this every time we see each other.
Yeah. Well, I'm always ready.
Game on. I can't wait. I'm not gonna be around this Saturday. I know you're gonna be seeing my wife. But
I'm gonna video it, and that'll be some kind of frivolous content we can put out there.
You know what, Lori? Maybe we can do something like that. We can do we can make it something, and you and I can actually do some self-defense strategies and see whose technique is the stronger one.
Right, because self-defense is a competition. So
it is. It is.
No, I'm being sarcastic.
No, it is. You're going to be competing with the floor. There you go.
Oh gosh.
So. All right, I'm done talking garbage on my good friend Lori. Look, she just totally ignored that one anyway. So I digress. But let me jump into a couple things before we get to our guest. I know she's patiently waiting, and I want to give her as much time as possible. She got a really great program. But before we do that, I just want to give a shout out. We have a new writer, a new person that writes for our blog, Jen Schneider. She wrote a story or an article called "Value in Loss," and Jen runs a blog called Thank You Isn't Enough, and you can find links to it on our serviceofchange.com/blog page, and that page is all about what she went through as her mother passed from cancer. And it's a very powerful blog. She talks about the emotional response, what she learned from her mother. It's very upbeat and inspirational. So check out the article that Jen wrote for us. It's her first one. Like it, share it, give her that support, show her that love, and please check out her blog as well. Again, the link is in the on the Service Change page. You can find it that way as well. So we talked about Lori's book. I'm going to give a shout out, to everybody that's been reaching out to me for the upcoming release of I Am Human, my new book. I've had people voting on the subtitle because I still haven't decided on it. We have a lot of great new suggestions and people voting on the ones that I put up there. Thank you. People are sending me information, stuff that's going to go into book number 2. I got a lot of great suggestions today. My friend Jen was reaching out to me, so shout out to Jen if she's watching. And another friend of mine through Facebook hit me up. I don't think she wants her name out there, but they've sent me some great information. And as an author, just being able to relate to people when they're responding to your writing, like I said, there's no greater compliment to that. So please check it out, serviceschange.com/IamHuman. Joel was just talking to me about it. He just read it, the other night or last night. And I'm very pleased with his response to it. So please check it out. I'm giving it away for free as an ebook, because this is book 1 of 2. Because I want readers. I want people to engage me because this topic, my passion comes from the death of my father, trying to understand life and who we are. There's more to it than that, but that's my driving force in doing this whole project. And I'll talk about that another night. But please check it out, serviceofchange.com/IamHuman, and you will get that free book once it's released. You also get access to the Seeker newsletter, which our first one is coming out tomorrow night. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go to serviceofchange.com, subscribe to the Truth Seekers newsletter, the Seeker newsletter, and you'll start getting those newsletters as well, along with some other great things. So any other plugs? What am I missing, Joel?
You're good.
I'm good. One more thing. There we go. I'm sorry. Last thing. I wrote an article the other day, and I really like you to check it out. It's about going to school while we sleep. I just read a book by Bob Monroe, and it talks about the possibility that, and this ties into my book, people have an out-of-body experience and maybe attending some type of school while they sleep. So that's the little teaser I'm going to give you. Check it out on the website when you get a chance. So, all right, without further ado, Joel, let's get to our guest because she's patiently waiting, and she's got a lot to talk about tonight, and I'm really excited about this show. So, Dr. Courtnie Wolfgang is a visiting assistant professor of art education at Virginia Commonwealth University and community arts organizer living in Richmond, Virginia. She holds bachelor's and master's degrees from University of Georgia and a PhD from Ohio State University with the special concerns for popular culture and social justice arts education pedagogies. I can never say that word. This is her 13th year in the classroom. Since 2011, Courtnie has been designing and directing arts-based summer workshops with adjudicated youth in South Carolina. Most recently, February 2015, she began a 10-week visual arts program with the Richmond City Justice Center, bringing together VCU students and incarcerated persons at the city jail in a collaborative teaching, learning, and art-making environment. She believes in, I can't say this word, democratizing the arts the arts are for everyone, but more so that making things together are potentially transformative tasks, and I think those are definitely words of wisdom. So let me make sure her mic is good to go. And why do I always have difficulty with this? Courtney, can you hear me? No, the mic is still muted. Be right there.
I think I unmuted it.
Oh, you did it. There we go. There you go. You're doing a great job already. How are you tonight, Courtney?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you on the show tonight. Thank you so much. So let's jump right into this. I mean, you've got a lot of stuff going on. Number one, a great resume as an educator. What drew you to teaching? What started all of this?
Oh, I don't even remember. I didn't when I started at the University of Georgia. I was a photography major as an undergraduate, and one of the photography faculty, Dr. Robert Nix, was a jointly appointed faculty member in photography and art education, and I remember him saying to me, maybe my senior year in college, Courtney, you would be a really good teacher, and I totally blew it off. I was like, that's not what I
right.
want to do. And he was absolutely right. It took me less than a year before I went back to school to pursue my teaching licensure. He was absolutely right, and I hadn't even really considered it before. I don't know. I mean, I was young. I was like sort of on a trajectory, thinking that I'm going to be an artist. And I was actually talking to some of my students about it today. That like shortly after I finished my art degree, I don't know, just the like being a professional visual artist felt like a sort of isolating experience for me, and I wanted to work with people more. And so I went back to school and I got my teaching licensure, and I taught in Loganville, Georgia, and Grayson, Georgia, which are both situated about halfway between Atlanta and the city of Athens. I was living in Athens at the time, so I was commuting about 45 minutes to teach when I was there, and then eventually went back to graduate school full-time, and now I work with persons becoming teachers. So I teach future art educators at VCU, and prior to being at VCU, I was at the University of South Carolina.
Isn't that neat, being able to give back to, at first you're giving it to the students, and then you're giving back to the people that are going to be teaching the students? That's got to be pretty cool to reach that level of the generation,
It's for real, I think, the best job ever. I tell, I mean, everyone out there listening, if you're looking for something really fantastic to do with yourself, teaching, but I love working with future teachers, and I'm constantly changing my own practice and my own methods because I'm being inspired by other people who were inspired to go into teaching the same way that I was. It's pretty remarkable. I've been really, really lucky, I think, to work with just some of the best students, both at USC and here at VCU. Like I'm amazed all the time by the dedication and the passion and the commitment and the creativity. It's just art ed is it. Anyone looking for a career change, come talk to me. Just kidding, but sort of serious.
No, I mean, I highly encourage you. I think we need more teachers. We need more art teachers. Especially at least up here in Pennsylvania, it seems like the arts have been under attack. They've been cut. That's what's the first thing to get cut in all our programs, because our budgets is terrible. Not that there's no money. It's just they're not putting the money into education anymore. And the first thing to go is usually your art and your music class, because they want everybody to pass these standardized tests nowadays, which is kind of where my passion came from after my first year. And that's kind of how that's how this whole Change Cast started. Was I put my first book out about my experiences trying to spread awareness about what's going on, and that's developed into the Change Cast, spreading awareness, and I've since put out 2 more books, for like classroom management, to try to help teachers who are dealing with a lot of these challenges and stuff. So I love the art aspect that you have. So so you went from teaching and working with with future teachers. How did you end up working with the I guess adjudicated youth or first-time offenders and inmates? How'd you get there?
Well, and I still like I do both of these things concurrently, all three of these things concurrently. So when I landed at USC in 2011, my fantastic friend and colleague Olga Ivashkovich, who is still there, she encouraged me to become an affiliate with Women's and Gender Studies, and they have Women's and Gender Studies at USC. This is the University of South Carolina. I always say USC and just assume because, you know, I'm a Southeasterner, but the Southern USC, not the Southern California USC.
Okay.
But they have I think it's in its 11th or 12th year now. There's a program, a community outreach program called the Women's Wellbeing Initiative, and they had some arts-based programming that they had been doing, and Olga had started working with these girls, the first time offenders up through it's the county adjacent to Columbia, South Carolina, as part of an arbitration program. The Lexington County Juvenile Justice Program has just a really fantastic system of arbitration where first-time offenders can participate in a series of different things to have their offense wiped from their record. And one of the things that really struck me about it, and still strikes me about it, and Catherine Barton is one of the coordinators there that we worked with, but that it really did, there were people there, everyone involved was deeply committed to rehabilitation. It wasn't about constantly acknowledging your offense and apologizing for it. It's about making smarter choices with your life, because these are kids we're talking about. I mean, I think my youngest participant I had, I think was 12. I think one year we had a 12-year-old, and so, you know, it's asinine to think that a 12-year-old should commit some sort of petty crime and then be stigmatized by it for the rest of their teens and in their early adulthood. And so I really valued their commitment to helping young people to just sort of like make a fresh start. You know, there's another program I did some work with called the Second Chance Program, and I liked it. I liked the idea that, you know, they really weren't, they were putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to like giving kids a second chance, and they were helping to provide opportunities for the young people to, you know, they did this more traditional arbitration things, like they take them on a visit to the city jail and they have to write apology letters to the persons that they committed the offense to. But then they also had things like the arts-based program that they really supported us, and we had a lot of liberty in the type of curricula that we built, and it was a 4-week program, and we typically did things with new media. So we did movie making and things using flip cameras and computers. We it was all on borrowed equipment, my computer and Olga's computer and her son's computer. So we would just sort of set up these makeshift digital workspaces, but the work that the girls produce is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, and like they just settle in immediately. And this is also, we have 4 Saturdays with these girls, and we don't know them. And I mean, if y'all are teachers, you've worked with adolescents before, like having a couple of adults come into a room and be like, hey y'all, let's make some art about our feelings, you know, like there's a lot of work that has to be done, like really
right. To build that bond and that trust before they even open up. Now, where are you when you're doing this?
Wherever we can get a space. There was a church in Lexington, South Carolina, that allowed us to use one of their their teen rec room, basically.
Okay.
So we didn't have to pay for a space, and then we just we built the studio with the computers or whatever we needed, costumes, whatever. Another one of the challenges of that program is that because they're under the age of 18, their identities can't be revealed, but we were asking them to produce these really honest and narrative pieces about their lives, and not about their offense, because we don't care about that. I mean, it's important in the context, but like never at any point do we ask them to acknowledge what their offense was and to apologize for it, because they do enough of that. This is more about exploring issues that are relevant to them. But we were really challenged by the anonymity of it, that, how can we ask these girls to produce these really personal pieces, but their bodies. So we actually started using anonymity as a power tool. I just said that out loud, realizing that I was saying power tool, but y'all know what I mean. Like, not an actual power tool, but
I didn't even make the connection. I understood. I really didn't make that connection.
It's a Black and Decker.
Right.
Joel was on it. No, I'm right with you. Go on. I like that power tool.
A tool for power.
There you go.
Yeah, and so like to position anonymity as a way to say things that you might feel less safe to say otherwise, or to occupy a space that you in your like typically presented self and your persona don't always feel empowered to do so. And we've kind of run with that theme the last few years, especially, and really sort of started to refine it because it's worked really well. I mean, we did a project on selfies. We called it Selfie Interrupted, but Selfie Interrupted was last summer, and like it's all photographs of the girls, but we used digital manipulation. We got a hold of some iPads, some borrowed iPads, and so we used the apps there. So, it's kind of it's a pastiche of a lot of different things, right? We have to take into consideration the setting and the limitations of the setting, and take into consideration the limitations of our technology or how much we have, and the time that we have with the girls. We also really love to invite students, undergraduate and graduate art education students, to participate with us and to help kind of co-create the curriculum, so that they can just, have that experience as students becoming teachers. Like it's I think an important thing to talk to future teachers about the, I don't know how to phrase this delicately, but like the less than perfect life situations that many of our students live in.
The hardships that so many students are going through. That's the reality check. I always love when I see the new teachers who come from a sheltered background and are expecting, teaching like, and this was me. I wasn't totally sheltered, but I remember when I was envisioning teaching, I envisioned myself in a classroom with everybody smiling and their hands raised, and every time I asked a question, they'd be, ooh, me. And I walked in my first day, I had like just trash everywhere, all over the floor. The first day with the kids, someone tried to stab me, like kids were assaulting me. Like, that was my birth into teaching, So I think it's great that you're giving future teachers that exposure. When I go out and I do my talks, like I get real with them, and I tell them, like, hey, this is what's going on, and I try to stress these kids aren't monsters. They've been through trauma, and nobody ever wants to help them. They just want to lock them up, throw them in jail, and forget about them. That's why I love what you're doing, because these kids are victims, and they may be the perpetrators of crime after the fact, but not enough people are saying, well, what can we do to either prevent this from happening again or support these kids so this doesn't happen at all? There's not enough of that going on.
Well, and I think it's being someone who works with teacher or students preparing to be teachers. Like, it's an opportunity to sort of talk about. I am a white woman who is a teacher. Many of my students are also white women. Our field is dominated by women, and it's pretty dominated by whiteness, and not just art education, teaching itself. And so, to talk about the rates at which persons of color are incarcerated versus persons who are white, right? To say that this isn't just that certain students from certain neighborhoods are more prone to violence or criminal activity. It's like, no. It's just not that simple. And also, even if a student does commit a crime and is arrested, or an adult or whatever, that it's, if you don't have any experience with incarceration, or you don't have any experience working with incarcerated people, it's really easy to believe what you see on TV, or
to believe the hype. Yep.
The negative ways in which persons who have committed crimes can be talked about, and so your ability to be a caring and empathetic person about the other people around you, if you don't have any like firsthand knowledge or experience with to be able to reverse the stories that have been told to you, and the sort of culture of belief around what incarceration is. And I think that, like, having a more empathetic view on persons who are incarcerated and to know more about it is one of many, many steps that need to be taken, obviously, to correct a cycle of just, I'm grasping for the right word, but we have some problems with rates of incarceration, I think, but we also have problems in this country with what happens on reentry, right? Like, what are the possibilities? What are the sites of potential for persons who have been incarcerated, who are re-entering into the communities? And it's not just about whether they can get a job; it's how they're perceived in a community. Right. Do we really believe in rehabilitation and re-entry, or are we just creating situations for failure? You know,
yeah,
and I don't have answers for that. But
I just wanted to add real quick, F. Scott Fitzgerald, I think, is the one who said that in America there are no second acts. And some people have traced it back to the idea of, like, original sin, that there is this thread that runs through American culture. It's subtle, but it's insidious, that kind of like character is destiny, and that goes back to the Greeks, the Greek tragedy. So a person who commits an offense is revealing their true character, and that character is likely immutable. It's likely unchanging. It's inherent. It's innate. So therefore, rehabilitation conceptually is kind of subtly rejected by a large part of the culture, and that's just not true. It's just totally not true. Like, people reinvent themselves all the time. Those who don't have resources to do so.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's I try to be very transparent when I'm talking to my students, my VCU students or USC students, that, you know, it's as a teenager and someone in my early 20s, sorry, Mom, I'm going to divulge some information here that maybe you don't hear. But, you know, like, smoking marijuana is illegal, and I have committed that crime before, you know.
Right.
But it's, you know, as a suburban upper middle class white teenager, my body wasn't being policed in the same ways that people my same age in different neighborhoods in different parts of the country are being policed. And so is it because I'm, you know, a different character? Absolutely not. I'm doing the same thing. Yeah. Like, I've just had different luck, I guess, you know. And so to try and unpack the contingency of you know, how and why and how frequently people are incarcerated, I think is something that I try to do with my students. And my students are just caring and thoughtful, and, you know, first day of class, they signed up for a class called Community Arts, and I walked in and, like, we're going to the jail, and nobody batted an eye, you know. They're just like, great, let's do this, you know. I mean, I think education as a field and arts education as a field within education definitely self-selects and breeds a certain kind of person who is interested in enacting change and interested in doing things for other people. And so that work is made pretty easy for those of us who teach future educators sometimes. Like, it's not always easy, but working with fantastically thoughtful students it does make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, I bet it does. I mean, you know, like I said, I used to be used to walking into that classroom on the first day, and my job was just to get my students to even care about education. So when that part is already accomplished for you, you have students that are, you know, there to learn and they're willing to do it. You know, that's got to be, you know, a great reward in and of itself for you. You know, a lot of things were running through my head as we went through that last piece. Joel totally shows he's much more intelligent than me with his reference to F. Scott Fitzgerald. I was reminded of an episode of The Office. I watched a rerun just last night where they had a new guy in there. They found out somebody was an ex. They called him an ex-convict, and everybody started freaking out, you know, over who it's going to be, and all the stereotypes start flying. They start pointing at a black guy, and that's who it was, you know, for the point of the comedy of the show. But that, you know, that is a microcosm of what goes on in the real world. You hear, oh, somebody has a record, and everybody gets all nervous, like somebody's going to steal, you know, from you, and that's not always the case. And I think that they deserve. We got to start focusing more on that rehabilitation piece. I look at it, everybody has something to give. When given the right opportunity, everybody can thrive. But it's a death sentence once you get that record on you. If you can't get that expunged and you know, hide that off your record, it's so difficult to come back from that, no matter where you are or who you are, and that's very frustrating. Unless you're a celebrity, of course, then it's, you know, it's a rite of passage. But
yeah,
we
talk a lot about. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just one more point, real quick. You know, you mentioned, you know, media exposure. A lot of people believe those stereotypes. I just came across some videos that, you know, I don't want to say I'm surprised that they weren't being shown, but I was floored by it because they were coming out of Ferguson, and what they were people wearing red and blue, members of Bloods and Crips, and they were flashing their signs. You know, they were each opposing sides, were working together in these protests because they realized we're in this together. Now, normally they're beating each other up or shooting at each other just for wearing the wrong color on the wrong street. And these people, and what they were doing were actually standing guard in front of these businesses, protecting the businesses. And you see the red and the blue standing next to each other, protecting these businesses, where normally these are the guys that everybody says, oh, they're gangbangers, they're hurting or killing each other. And that shows there's a human element in these people that we look at as criminals, as gangbangers, as bad people. They're human beings, and they've been through trauma, and they need our support instead of us just dismissing them. Because if you don't address the problem now, that problem is eventually going to manifest in your own backyard in your neighborhood. So let's deal with it now before it's a major issue, and you find out, oh, my kid just got beat up by the gang that just moved into our neighborhood. You know? Yeah.
And I want to be really clear when I say that, you know, I said that, you know, we don't have good systems for doing this, and I'm not pointing the finger at the justice system exclusively. I believe that it's all of our parts. This is very Pollyanna-ish of me, I know, but I do believe really strongly in the power of community and the power of, you know, being present in your community, and so I think partially the reason I got involved and have stayed involved. The reason I got involved was, again, because of my very fantastic colleague and friend, and I'm so thankful for her all the time for a lot of reasons, but especially because, you know, I landed in South Carolina. I was brand new at the University of South Carolina, and she said, let's do this together, and we've been doing it, and we continue to do it, and it's fantastic. But the reason I've stayed involved and stayed committed and sort of transitioned into working with incarcerated adults now here, I mean, I was given the opportunity. The class I teach at the Richmond City Justice Center, which is the city jail here, is one of many classes that's taught by Virginia Commonwealth University professors. It's part of the Open Minds program. It's the link, or the website is openminds.vcu.edu. If you're interested, I think the last time Dave Coogan, Dr. Dave Coogan, is the sort of director of that program, and he's behind this a lot, but I think he said that there are 40 affiliate faculty members involved with Open Minds now, so there are a lot of different classes that are being taught. They have a scholarship program, which they just had their first 3 recipients of the scholarship program, which enables residents who, upon their release, they get a scholarship to take a class at VCU, so they can continue their classes. So they get credit at the RCJC for the classes they're taking, and then they also become eligible to apply for scholarship programs once they're released to continue taking classes at VCU. I really commend the RCJC, the Richmond City Justice Center, for their commitment to the persons who are living there, who are, you know, one of the residents, and they refer to them as residents.
Good. It's not humiliating.
You know, and I make sure to make that really clear. But so when I say residents, I'm talking about the persons who are incarcerated there.
People first language, and that's so, and that gives them value as opposed to, oh, you're just an inmate or you're just incarcerated. That's right. Fantastic. You know,
Right.
and I think that's such a wonderful thing that they're doing, that they're investing again, you know, and to the people that are saying, oh, why are they giving these people an education, they don't deserve it. What I'm going to say is, what's the alternative? They're going to, you know, if somebody just knows crime and nobody teaches them or provides them an opportunity for something better, again, that might be you that becomes the victim next time, as opposed to, well, hey, that person might end up being the one that does your taxes next week, or who knows, they may go on and get their doctorate. I mean, that happens too, you know, so make that
And
investment.
the most interesting thing I was thinking is about like what is being offered, because Courtney, you were talking about like basically like the differences in opportunity, like structural disadvantage, and it just made me think about how often there seems to be subtext from the liberal left or from Democrats that says that you can deal with structural disadvantage financially, like you spend more money. But what, like I just reading this book about the like history of Western civilization, like some of the structural disadvantage I think manifests itself in a lack of culture and art. And it's not that the spirit of culture and art is lacking in disadvantaged communities. It's that the resources to activate it, and like nowadays the technology to activate that, like I believe that art is like an inevitable offshoot of the human spirit. It's almost plays a religious function for communities, like you were talking about communities. And so disadvantaged communities and disadvantaged people that land in the justice system, they don't necessarily, so they have this spiritual need to express themselves and all the emotions that are concomitant to that, and they don't have the outlet. So I think part of addressing the structural disadvantage is giving, like all civilizations that have prospered have had strong culture and strong art. And so part of addressing disadvantage is helping, even in just in a small way, give these communities or members of these communities options to express that necessary human need to reflect on their own condition and make beautiful things that speak to their condition.
Right. I mean, and I want to make sure that I'm really clear. Like when it comes to the residents, the students at RCJC who I'm working with, I have no idea until they share it with me which of my students there grew up in underserved neighborhoods or
Right.
in underserved schools. And some of my students, I have one in my men's class who studied art. I think he shared with one of my VCU students that he went to the Ringling School of Art and Design, and I believe it based on the work that he's done. And I have other students who have been to VCU and have been studied there. So you know they come from a variety of different backgrounds, I think. And so, but you're right. There are direct correlations to poverty and graduation rate, as well as poverty and incarceration rates. So it's not misspeaking to sort of anticipate, at least when you're going into a classroom in a jail or in a prison, that you'll be working with persons who grew up in underserved areas when it comes to school and access to things like technology and art. But it's not always a hard and fast rule.
Well, I mean, I think you might be able to, like Dennis was bringing up how like now, like after the recession, like arts are being cut, and arts are being cut.
Right.
In a variety of places, and
most areas are underserved when it comes to arts funding.
Exactly. So I think I might be able to make a broader critique that as a larger culture, we are not serving ourselves or our civilization in terms of, we tend to, in a very materialistic type of pro-efficiency, pro-functionality way, just like, oh, well, art is kind of just, it's frivolous, it's like luxurious, and I don't think it is at all. Like art is as valuable as spirituality. It is a form of spirituality in terms of like informing people and their moral choices and in their, you know, their value choices in terms of civilization. Like you can't have a society that's just mechanical or be robots. And art is what separates us.
It doesn't fit on a multiple choice test, Joel. That's the problem.
But that's what I'm saying. So
no, you're right. But that's where we're at.
So I think if she has a student who actually comes from what might be called privilege, he might still be underprivileged in other ways that we're all becoming underprivileged in, if that makes any sense.
No, you're right. And I say this all the time. And I've had students, they cannot. If I say I want you to write me a paragraph describing what the theme or the main idea of this story was, I've had students, they can't do that. They're just not. Writing just overwhelms them and confuses them. But if I say, all right, we just read this story, draw me a picture representing what it's about. The fine detail that they put into that piece of art explains everything. A picture's worth 1,000 words. I can look at that and I know they understand what they read. But we don't measure that because we gotta have data. We gotta have data. I'd rather have a picture. I can hang a picture on my wall. I don't want to hang, a multiple choice test with A, B, C, D on my.
Well, and the whole thing that they're trying to measure is their ability to. It's a skill, like an adult skill of being able to perceive meaning in situations, like.
Right.
So if they can draw a picture, they're getting the gist. So
that's what we
understand. They can analyze the situations that go on in their life and make better choices.
You're right. So let me move this on and take a slightly different direction. But Courtney, I want to ask you, do you have a particular connection that you've made with one of your students or something that stood out to you about this program that you can share with us?
I mean, I think I go to the RCJC twice a week. I have 2 classes, one on Thursday evening and one on Friday morning, and I think every time, and I've visited other classes that other people have taught last semester, and every time I go in there, I think I have a really remarkable experience with at least one resident. So there's not one thing that sticks out in my mind because there are so many. So I'll speak sort of generally about the things that stand out to me. My students' willingness to engage immediately and very honestly with the work that we're doing. Their interest and ability to connect the content of the prompts, or in one of the classes, for example, in the men's class, the sort of overarching prompt for the 10 weeks that we'll be there is a true story, but true is in quotation marks. And so we're exploring a lot of things about, things that we perceive as truth and, our outside and inside world, and, there's a lot of metaphor, and their willingness and ability to connect to, say, like the philosophy class that they took, at RCJC, or the creative writing class that they took. I mean, we talk in classroom settings, in K-12 settings, we talk a lot about the siloing of information and how students are becoming less and less adept at making connections between, what's happening in their history class and what's happening in their English class, and like what are the best ways, right, to help them make connections between things. And I joke, but it's not really a joke, and I just keep saying, like, I just want to teach all of my classes at the jail because, talk about thirst for knowledge, and talk about intellectual curiosity. They are funny and smart, and they're great students. One of the things on the first day that we were with the women's class, we were going around introducing ourselves, and one of the residents said, my name is, and, here are the things, and welcome to my house. And myself and all the VCU students were like, you're right, this is your house. Thank you for having it. Like, there's just that really click, the residents, thank you for coming, thank you for bringing these things, and then she's like, welcome to my house. And so it changed the dynamic of how we perceive ourselves in that space, in that moment, that, we were visitors, and there's so much respect, there's so much care for the space. it's really remarkable. And if everyone could have an experience like this, I think it would really significantly shift the sort of cultural interpretation of sort of like release and incarceration. And at least, like I said before, I mean, I think empathy is a big get with this, like if you have not been incarcerated and you don't have anyone close to you who has been incarcerated, it might live on Netflix forever as Orange is the New Black. It might never become something that is a personal experience or a personal relationship with someone. And I think it does really significantly change your ability to, I mean, for lack of a better phrase, just like give people a break,
Right. Right.
Well, it sounds like. Sorry, Dennis.
Go ahead.
It sounds like that you're describing people that are, you said, naturally curious and they're already learning. It's like, I think there's this model that we all accept, that we dispense education to people. We give it to them. If we're teachers or if we're the more wealthy people that are funding things, like we're giving them something that otherwise they wouldn't get. And it almost sounds like you're guiding an already organically occurring process. Maybe you're guiding it in a better direction?
The learning is definitely a collaborative space. Honestly, I would say, at this point, the only thing we're bringing that they don't already have are the art materials. I mean, and I'm not saying that in a, like, we're not bringing it. I mean, it is such a collaboratively constructed learning space. Like, the RCJC residents are giving so much to that teaching and learning space, as much as anyone from VCU, my students, myself, and then my students who are like student teachers in that space. But like at this point, like our only thing that we have that they don't are the books and the paint and the drawing paper.
Well,
and
you're facilitating them. You're giving them the space.
We're providing them with the vessels through which to communicate. They're already very illuminating and brilliant ideas. It's been really. This is only the third week. We just started this month, and I'd just gotten home before the podcast started, and I'm still kind of on that. I call it my RCJC high. I just sort of like float through the universe for about 2 hours after I leave the jail, like thinking about all of the conversations and just how special it is. And that's not a great word to use, but it is. It's really special.
It's reminding me. I have a friend of mine. She's an author, and I used to work with her as a teacher. She wrote a book called Letters to Miss M, and it's right up your alley. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you tracking it down.
Miss M, letter M?
Letters to Miss M, E-M.
Mm-hmm.
And she's from the Caribbean, and she came here, to America, and was living in New York, and I forget how the whole story goes. I'm gonna try to get her on the show. She's a beautiful person, and she linked up with the prison population and really didn't understand it. Why are you here? What's going on? She had empathy for this one man that was in there, and she started corresponding with him, and her book is a compilation of his letters telling his story of incredible hardship, of how he ended up where he was. And it's a great piece of writing for exactly what you're doing, because now she works with children in very challenging areas, and she has a youth group. It's very similar to what you do. She's big on bringing the arts. Her focus is on writing and expression and stuff to young people that are incarcerated, that have been facing these legal challenges and stuff, to try to teach them a better way. So you're just really reminding me of her. So definitely check out that book if you get a chance. I think you'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're coming up close to the end of our show, and I want to ask you, if somebody wanted to start a program like this, or to get guidance from you or from the organization that you're with, from Open Minds, what do you recommend? How could somebody go about even doing something like this? Because I think this should be spread out to every prison. Who knows? Maybe we'll get this change cast out to everybody to hear it as a starting point. But where could they go to start something like this?
Well, I've been pretty fortunate to have been able to link myself in with programs that had already done a lot of that legwork. So in terms of starting from the ground up, I'm not totally certain. However, if you're a university student, or if you are in a place with a large university, it's possible that there is a program
it already
kind of like
exists.
Open Minds. If there are ways to go through it. So for instance, in South Carolina, our affiliate group that we link in through and schedule these workshops through is the juvenile court. So if there is, that's another place to kind of start. If you are starting from the ground up, is get in touch with persons who are like program directors and the arbitration people for the juvenile courts, the juvenile justice spaces wherever you live, because they are more than happy for us to continue our programming every summer. The woman who does the coordination for that has become one of my very good friends. It's remarkable to be around people who are all sort of like-minded and working towards something that is just trying to benefit other human beings in some way, and so that would be a place to start. But I can't really say, like what I do. Again, I'm super lucky that I met Dave Coogan at a faculty mixer at the beginning of the semester, last semester when I came to VCU. I was introduced to him by another one of my colleagues, and then like before I knew it, I was teaching a class in the jail. I mean, it involved a little more than that too, but
Right.
Like linking up with other people who are doing things like this definitely helps, because it's not something I think that would be easily done with one person. Additionally, I had to write a grant. RCJC was thrilled about the possibility of having arts classes, but they had no money to give me for materials for those classes. So, I wrote a grant through the Service Learning Office at VCU and was thankfully awarded the monies in which to buy the materials for the classes. I could have spent 10 times what I got, because but like you make it work. You make the money that you have stretch as far as it can, but there's hopefully time for that program to grow and to be continued. And so it's definitely a little bit like rolling a boulder up a hill sometimes,
Right.
but it's totally worth it. I mean, I can't imagine doing anything else.
Is there? You gave a website. It was openminds.vcu.edu. Is there information on there where if somebody was just kind of in the brainstorming phase, they could go look at that website and maybe get some insight?
You could definitely get some insight of the courses that are offered and the way that it's sort of structured. But also you can when you look under the faculty, Dr. Dave Coogan is the co-director of Open Minds, and I'm sure he would be happy to talk to anyone who's thinking about doing something like this. He's a brilliant and caring person, and he's great at what he does. He's very well esteemed by all of the residents at RCJC, and he's been remarkable in his willingness to invite me into his classrooms there and to support me in the development of this class. He's visited my class now already, and he plans on coming back again. He's bringing someone who wants to teach a theatrical speech writing class there so she can see what the arts classes are doing. I mean, it really is a community effort, and I feel very fortunate to be a part of it.
And that we got about 2 minutes left with you, Courtney. But I want to stress two things real quick. Openminds.vcu.edu if you want to kind of go brainstorm, and you say connect with Dr. What's his name again?
Coogan.
Dave Coogan.
Thank you, Joel. Your memory is better than mine. Dave Coogan. If you're looking to start something in your area, please, that sounds like an excellent resource, something that's going to be helpful to helping you get it going. And let us know about it too at Service of Change. Maybe we can help you on the promotion end. And we'd love to definitely hear about it and spread that word. Because that's exactly what we're trying to do. And Courtney said countless times throughout this, whether directly stating it or just inferring it through her actions, community. And that's exactly what we're trying to build here, and everybody work together and network and have that sense of community that works towards a common good. So Courtney, we're just about out of time with you here, but thank you so much. This was such a wonderful, insightful discussion. I hope that people take some inspiration from it. Your students are certainly lucky to have you. I'll give you about another minute if you have any final thoughts, final words for our listeners out there, or anything else you'd wish to share.
No, I nothing that I can think of, but I'm happy if you want to reach out to me, Dennis. You're welcome to share my contact information on your website, my email address. I would love to hear from you if you're doing projects like this as well, or be happy to share what me and my students. It's not just me. It's a very collective effort, both VCU and RCJC students, and I'm excited to see where it goes. We've got 8 more weeks, so maybe I'll come back and share the final thoughts when we're done.
Do you want to give your email address out over the air, Courtney?
Sure. It's letter C, N, Wolfgang, WOLFGANG, at vcu.edu.
Okay, that's CN Wolfgang at vcu.edu. We will have that up on the link associated with this ChangeCast as well at serviceofchange.com. So if you can connect with Courtney and share your stories. Now, Courtney, are we going to have pictures of this stuff maybe that you can share with us? We can put up on our website, or is any of this artwork going to be available, through the internet that we can look at?
Those are still some question marks, because we're not allowed to take cameras or phones or any recording devices into the jail, but we are planning on exhibiting the work at the end of the course. We're in talks with a couple of gallery spaces here in Richmond, in which case we'll be able to photograph work and be able to share that with you for sure.
Awesome. I'd love it if you could send that to us as maybe a follow-up. We could take a look at that.
We would love to get it out there. They're very proud of the work that they're doing.
And hey, I'm going to throw it out there as well. If open it up to your students. If if any of the residents or anybody that's been through the program would be interested in being a guest on our show, I'd love to speak to them and hear their perspective and let them share their story. They can definitely have a voice here with us, because we're trying to spread that.
Ceremony on Tuesday for some of the residents who will be released soon, who have been the recipients of the scholarship program to take classes at VCU. So maybe I'll share that with them.
That would be fantastic. Please do. So okay, well we're just about out of time. Courtney, I'm going to go ahead and put you on mute, but why don't you hang on? And we can kind of debrief after the show. But thank you so much, Courtney, for being our guest today. She's on mute right now, but she's still with us. Joel, any final thoughts on the show as we go ahead and close it out?
I was impressed, and I felt like I learned a lot about. I had some of my own insights, but and like one of them was that there's kind of like a fine line between art and learning and the human spirit. That the human spirit, that like the desire for good and for life and for good things in life, like, is found in a desire to learn, and it's found in a desire to make art, and then the strategy that she seemed to describe was just to allow that life force to like happen, rather than trying to give people that don't have things, give them things. I think I said that already. I kind of alluded to that in one of my comments, but that's what really impressed me. It's like she's a facilitator of the human spirit.
Yeah.
As I think you and I are to a great extent.
And I get. It was very hard for me to keep quiet
and
allow her to tell her story, because I have so many experiences with that, and I just want to jump in and be like, yeah, that's a great idea, And so I think that's always our challenge as hosts, when we meet like-minded people and people that have a passion that's similar to ours, to allow them to share their story. But I think we did an awesome job. I even noticed you quieted yourself down a couple times.
Absolutely. Well, she was worried she wouldn't have enough to say, but
I know, right?
I knew.
We got you covered. We're good.
Yeah, don't worry. But because like you said, like when people have a passion, they want to talk about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yep. And her life force, her human spirit was was exploding out as it should.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Pretty awesome guest. So, look, we're just about out of time. I've seen we've had viewers popping in and out all night. So to those of you that have been watching the show live, thank you so much. Please, the best way to support our show is just share our links. Go to the serviceofchange.com, share it, like it, but most importantly, we'd love to hear from you. Comment. We want to have that discussion with you.
Come on the show.
Yes, guests want
to argue with me.
The provocateur. There he goes. He's throwing it out there. We're looking for that interaction with you.
Discuss pedagogy. Sorry.
There you go. He's good. Got it. And we're also looking for writers. If you run a blog or you have a story to share, whether it's a one-time thing or you're looking for an ongoing, consistent thing, we're looking for more writers to help grow and build this community. With Service of Change. So, Joel, I'm going to one more plug I want to give. Because I know we have some teachers listening. And I've got a couple resources myself. If you go to serviceofchange.com/teachers, and you know what? If you're watching the PowerPoint here. Let me see if I can get to that slide while I talk here. But I have a free classroom management e-course. It gets sent right to your inbox. You just got to provide your email. You don't even have to give your name. And that course is based off of two of my books, The Urban Educator's Survival Guide. And the one is 7 Proven Strategies for Classroom Management. And the other one is How to Prepare for and Prevent and Deal with School Violence. So please check them out. There it is. There's the slide right there. Free e-course, classroom management. Course sent right to your inbox. Please check that out. It's designed to help teachers. The Kindle version is 99 cents because I've been in a worst case scenario as an educator, and it's all about the kids and the teachers that are on those front lines. So my experience is I try to make them available for everybody to learn and grow from them as we venture to build that sense of community. So thank you to our guest Courtney. Lori Latimer at Lori Latimer1 on the Twitter feeds. You can now pre-order her book, The Art of Service, a collection of haiku poems. It's a beautiful piece there. You can check that out at serviceofchange.com. There's plenty of links for it and on our social media feeds. Facebook.com/serviceofchange. You can follow me on Twitter, Dennis Nappy II, Nappii. You can also check us out on iTunes and subscribe to our podcast there. Just search for Service of Change and subscribe that way. RSS feeds at serviceofchange.com. You can get our free Service of Change app at serviceofchange.com. Just click the banner when it opens up. Save that app to the home screen or save that window to the home screen of your mobile device. And lastly, my free ebook that's going to be coming out shortly, I Am Human. It's a study into basically what is humanity, and there is more to us than we actually realize. Serviceofchange.com/I Am Human. And lastly, a big thank you to my esteemed co-host, Joel the Provocateur Schaefer. Joel, it's always a pleasure doing a show with you. I think we've come such a long way. And I look forward to where we're going. I think your mic's fading in and out. So I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. Again, thank you to everybody. Remember that small changes among the masses can have a massive impact around the world. Be that change. Thank you.